Something occurred. Transformed. I sensed it around me, in the manner that the stillness felt heavier than it ever had. As I washed the dishes in the afternoon, I suddenly heard the door creak open. Sophia was back. She strolled past, seemingly oblivious to my presence, and shut herself away in her room. I let out a deep breath. I understood that I needed to speak with her. Yet the fear held me captive. Which words should be chosen? How to convey to her that what she had witnessed might not be as it appeared, or perhaps it truly was. She approached the door of her room and called softly, "Sophia, may we have a conversation?" Quietude. I pressed my forehead against the wood, feeling utterly absurd. Since when has my own daughter been avoiding me like this? Moments later, her voice reached my ears. I'm not sure how to explain this, Mom. Her tone was calm. It was something more profound. A sense of letdown. The impact of those words left me gasping for air. I turned away from the door, choosing not to press the matter further. The days drifted by, each one steeped in an unspoken tension. Sophia was increasingly distant, departing more frequently and returning late. She ceased to inquire about my day. And she didn't even glance in my direction throughout dinner. One night, after yet another grueling shift at the hospital, I came home feeling more isolated than ever. The apartment lay shrouded in darkness, enveloped in a profound silence. Sophia had still not returned. I placed the keys on the table and slipped off my shoes. Thor welcomed me, as he always did. By wagging his tail, embodying that steadfast loyalty that reassured me I still had a place to call home. I collapsed onto the sofa, shutting my eyes. He ascended with caution and rested his head gently on my lap. I glided my fingers through his fur, savoring the gentle texture beneath my touch. I was unaware of the time slipping away as I simply breathed, relishing the warmth of his body pressed against mine. At one moment, I opened my eyes and caught sight of Sophia's shadow lingering in the doorway. He observed me quietly. I kept my gaze steady. After a brief pause, she let out a sigh and folded her arms. "Mom. This isn't right." "Come in." "Absolutely. What do you mean, this?" He waved his hand in an indistinct manner, the manner in which, I can't quite say, you handle it. It's merely a dog, Sophia, I remarked, attempting to maintain my composure. She gazed at me, her expression a blend of bewilderment and sorrow. Is that something you can genuinely express? I chose not to respond. Sophia ran a hand through her hair, exasperated. "Father is gone, yet that doesn't imply you should fill the void with the first option that comes your way." His comment affected me more deeply than I anticipated. I rose gradually, burdened by the gravity of the discussion lingering in the air. "You can't possibly understand what it feels like to be truly alone, Sophia." She pressed her lips together. No, I'm not sure. "Yet, you also keep me at a distance." His words struck me like a sharp slap. Thor, unaware of the discussion, perched himself on the sofa, and observed us with keen interest. Sophia nodded her head, as though she had more to express, but then she hesitated. "I'm heading out." He finally declared. "I'm unsure of what time I'll return." Without pausing for a response, he grabbed his jacket and exited, the door shutting behind him with a sharp, dry click. I rose in the living room, a tightness forming in my throat. Thor came closer, resting his snout gently on my hand. I let out a soft sigh and absent-mindedly stroked him. A rift existed between my daughter and me. I was completely at a loss on how to resolve it. The hours dragged on interminably after Sophia departed. I sat on the sofa, my mind swirling with thoughts I was reluctant to confront. The echoes of my daughter's words lingered in my mind. That I merely required some distance. As the day unfolded, the anxiety swelled within me, becoming an unbearable burden in my chest. At 4 in the afternoon, the concern transformed into fear. I dialed her mobile. Silence. I reached out once more. Silence. The third attempt to reach her ended with the call going straight to voicemail. I sensed the ground give way beneath me. I compelled myself to think with clarity. I couldn't lose my composure. I grabbed my coat and keys, stepping out of the house with my heart racing in my chest. The initial hours felt like a waking nightmare. I visited all the spots that Sophia frequented, the cafeteria where she studied, the park where she met her friends, and the central square. No one had laid eyes on her. The pain twisted into a tight knot in my throat. I simply couldn't let her go. Not after all that we had endured. As the sky started to lose its light, I realized it was time to head to the police. I was on the verge of making a call when my cell phone buzzed in my hand. A note: Sophia. I'm doing well. Do not seek me out. The relief washed over me in an instant, swiftly followed by a surge of anger. Sophia. Do not seek me out. How could you say that to me? My fingers quivered as I penned a response. Where are you? Return to your place. No response came. I lingered, silence. Upon my return to the apartment, Thor greeted me in his customary manner, yet, I found myself lacking the energy to match his excitement. I sank onto the sofa, a wave of exhaustion washing over me, leaving me feeling hollow. Thor rested his head on my lap, as if he understood his emotions. Are you aware of what the most unfortunate aspect is? I whispered softly, my fingers grazing him absent-mindedly, that he likely despises me now. He simply gazed at me with those deep, dark eyes. As though he could grasp it all. I leaned in closer, resting my forehead against his, inhaling the scent that felt so familiar. I felt utterly defeated. When did I destroy it all? That night. Sleep eluded me. Each time I shut my eyes, Sophia's face appeared before me, her expression brimming with confusion and sorrow. The house seemed more desolate than it ever had before. I tossed and turned in bed, struggling to settle into a comfortable position. Eventually, Thor leaped onto the mattress and nestled beside me. I did not abandon him. His warmth wrapped around me like a quiet embrace. I shut my eyes, and after days of restlessness, finally drifted off to sleep, yet my repose was anything but tranquil. I envisioned Sophia. I envisioned a return home, yet when he attempted to communicate, his voice resonated as a far-off echo, utterly incomprehensible. I dreamed of Thor's piercing and profound gaze. In the dream, I awoke to find myself utterly alone. The vacant apartment. The lights are off. The gentle patter of raindrops against the glass. I awoke with my heart pounding, a sense of suffocation enveloping me. All remained unchanged. Yet, a part of me understood that this was merely the start. The following days were a nightmare. Sophia failed to return home. She ignored my calls and my messages. Her friends claimed they had no idea where she was, or at least that was their story. Each night, I found myself on the sofa, staring at my cell phone, yearning for the moment her name would light up the screen. Yet, the stillness was complete. I felt hollow, immobilized by remorse and dread. What if I had caused her pain without even knowing it? What if I had ventured into territory that was better left untouched? Thor was always with me. His presence was the sole solace in a home that was growing increasingly frigid. In the stillness of night, when anxiety clung to me and sleep eluded my grasp, I sensed his presence drawing near, settling beside me with a soothing warmth. He kept bothering me. I required his presence. On the fifth day, as I sipped my coffee in the kitchen, my cell phone buzzed to life. A note. Sophia. I must see you, this evening. Plaza Mayor. My heart shifted. I responded without a moment's pause. I will be present. Sitting solitary on a bench, her jacket snug against her form. She appeared more slender, feeling increasingly fatigued. As I drew near, she lifted her eyes, and our gazes intertwined. I also don't wish to continue feeling unnoticed. He gazed at me, his eyes brimming with sorrow. So, can you tell me if I can go home? A knot formed in my throat. I rose and embraced her firmly, always. Sophia, forever. She rested her head on my shoulder. Promise you'll engage with me more often. I assure you. Sophia offered a faint smile. Let's head back home. That night, when I opened the door of the apartment, Tornos greeted me with enthusiasm. Sophia knelt down and gently stroked him with tenderness. I suppose I must come to terms with you as well, he murmured. I folded my arms and gazed at her with warmth in my eyes. What have you overlooked? She smiled, a hint of nostalgia in her expression. I felt his absence as well. Tormo noticed the cue and took a seat beside her on the sofa, resting his head on his leg. After weeks of heaviness, the atmosphere at home finally felt more buoyant. Not everything was resolved. However, we had embarked on the initial journey. And that sufficed. The initial weeks following Sophia's return felt peculiar. Home felt a bit more relaxed. Yet there remained an underlying sense that something was amiss. I attempted to engage her further, to convey my presence, yet I still sensed her gaze upon me, scrutinizing my movements, my pauses. And the worst thing was that I myself did not know what to do with the emotions that had entangled within me. One night, while working in the Sophia entered the kitchen and leaned against the table. I have a question to pose, and I expect an honest response from you. I paused, holding the spatula still in my hand. Very well. She inhaled deeply. Are you feeling happy, Mom? I was caught off guard by that question. My fingers wrapped around the spatula. What prompts your inquiry? Sophia regarded me with a serious expression. What's keeping you from looking happy? A lengthy silence stretched between us. I set the spatula down and placed my hands on the table. I'm uncertain. You're not aware, she inquired, her disbelief evident. I let out a weary breath. At times, I ponder that notion. At times, I sense that I'm confined in a life that doesn't truly belong to me. What leads you to feel that way? I took my time to respond. Yet, we were both aware of the truth. That night, after Sophia had settled into her slumber, I found myself stirring on the sofa, gazing out the window. Thor, as ever, stood steadfastly beside me. His gaze lingered on me in the shadows. I realized at that instant that something needed to be done. Transformation. I could no longer exist in a realm of ambiguity. I couldn't hold on to a sensation that eluded my comprehension. I reached out and gently stroked his hand. Gently. I need to seek out answers, correct? He remained silent, yet his expression conveyed everything. I rose gradually and made my way to Sophia's room. I gently opened the door and discovered her in a peaceful slumber. Inhale and exhale with serenity. I offered a wistful smile. At least, she had company now, yet the inquiry lingered unresolved. Did she feel joy? I was unaware. Yet, the moment had arrived to unveil it, and that would transform everything.